As the helicopter lifted off into the darkness, Elena Vasquez watched the lights of the forward operating base fade below them. Soon they would be alone in hostile territory, dependent on their training, their equipment, and each other. The next 48 hours would test everything she had learned about precision shooting, fieldcraft, and operating under pressure. The aircraft flew low to avoid detection, following terrain features that provided natural concealment from enemy radar and observation posts. Through her night vision goggles, Elena Vasquez could see the landscape passing below, memorizing landmarks that would help with navigation during their ground movement. 30 minutes into the flight, the crew chief signaled that they were approaching the insertion point. The team conducted final equipment checks, ensuring that everything was properly secured for the fast rope descent that would put them on the ground. Elena Vasquez felt the familiar mixture of anticipation and focus that preceded combat operations. The helicopter flared as it reached the designated landing zone, hovering just above the rocky terrain. One by one, the team members rappelled down thick ropes, their boots touching Afghan soil with practiced silence. Within minutes, they had retrieved their equipment and moved away from the landing zone as the Black Hawk disappeared into the darkness. Now the real work began. 8 kilometers of difficult terrain lay between them and their observation post, through valleys that could conceal enemy patrols and across radial lines that exposed them to potential detection. Elena Vasquez adjusted the weight of her pack and checked her compass bearing. Every step from this point forward brought them closer to a confrontation that would test the absolute limits of her abilities as a precision marksman. The team moved through the darkness like shadows, their night vision equipment turning the treacherous mountain terrain into a green-tinted landscape of opportunity and danger. Elena Vasquez carried her rifle case across her back, feeling its familiar weight as they navigated narrow goat paths and loose shale that threatened to announce their presence to anyone listening. Sergeant Torres led the way, his years of experience in this region evident in every carefully chosen step. After 4 hours of steady climbing, they reached a plateau that offered their first clear view of the target valley. Elena Vasquez set up her spotting scope and studied the distant compound through the pale green glow of her night vision. Even at this distance, she could make out the defensive positions, the guard towers, and the commanding view the enemy had of the surrounding terrain. It was immediately clear why this location had been chosen as a stronghold. The team established a temporary observation post behind a cluster of large boulders that provided both concealment and protection from the wind that constantly swept across the exposed ridge line. Elena Vasquez unpacked her M2010 enhanced sniper rifle with methodical precision. Each component was checked, cleaned, and assembled with the kind of attention to detail that separated elite marksmen from ordinary shooters. The rifle was her instrument of precision, and like any professional musician, she treated it with reverence and respect. The barrel was custom manufactured to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. The trigger had been adjusted to break cleanly at exactly 2.5 pounds of pressure. The scope was calibrated to her exact shooting style and had been zeroed at ranges out to 1,200 meters. But tonight, she would be pushing far beyond those tested limits. Sergeant Torres moved up beside her position and studied the target through his own binoculars. The compound below sprawled across nearly 2 acres of terraced ground. Multiple buildings, defensive walls, and what appeared to be underground storage facilities. Intelligence had indicated that a high-value target would be meeting with local commanders sometime before dawn. Elena Vasquez began her range estimation process. Using her scope's reticle, she measured the apparent size of known objects in the compound. A standard doorway, guard towers of estimated height, vehicles parked in the courtyard. Each measurement was cross-referenced with terrain features and converted into distance calculations. The mathematics of long-range shooting became more complex with every additional meter. At extended ranges, factors that were negligible at shorter distances became critical variables that could mean the difference between success and failure. Wind speed and direction had to be calculated not just at her position, but estimated along the entire flight path of the bullet. Air density changed with altitude and temperature. The curvature of the Earth itself became a factor at distances beyond 2,000 meters. Elena Vasquez had spent countless hours studying these principles, practicing the calculations until they became second nature. But theoretical knowledge was different from practical application under field conditions with lives, depending on her accuracy. She began gathering atmospheric data: temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, wind speed, and direction at multiple altitudes. Modern ballistic computers could process this information and provide firing solutions, but Elena Vasquez preferred to run the calculations manually as a backup. Technology could fail. Mathematics and experience were more reliable. As she worked through the numbers, the true difficulty of the shot became apparent. The target compound was approximately 2,940 meters away. At that distance, even a perfect shot would take nearly 4 seconds to reach the target. During those 4 seconds, wind could push the bullet meters off course. The target could move. Atmospheric conditions could change. Elena Vasquez had made successful shots at 2,000 meters under controlled conditions. She had never attempted anything approaching 2,940 meters in a combat environment. Sergeant Torres finished his own reconnaissance and moved over to her position. "What are you thinking for range?" he asked quietly. Elena Vasquez continued to peer through her scope, making micro-adjustments to the focus. "Just under 3,000 meters," she replied. "Longest shot I've ever attempted." Sergeant Torres was quiet for a moment, understanding the implications. At that distance, even the smallest error in calculation or execution would result in a complete miss. "You don't have to take this shot," he said finally. "We can call for air support or wait for a closer opportunity." Elena Vasquez looked up from her scope and met his eyes. "This might be our only chance. Intelligence says he'll be here before dawn and gone by sunrise. If we miss this opportunity, we might be hunting him for months." The compound location made conventional assault nearly impossible. The approach routes were all exposed to defensive fire from multiple positions. Air support would give the target time to escape into the underground tunnel systems that intelligence had identified throughout the region. This shot, as difficult as it was, represented their best chance of mission success. Elena Vasquez returned to her scope and began the process of establishing her shooting position. The fundamentals that had been drilled into her during training became even more critical at extended range. Body position had to be perfectly stable. The rifle had to be supported consistently. Her breathing had to be controlled and timed with the natural pause between heartbeats. She extended the bipod legs and adjusted them for the slight downward angle required by the terrain. A small sandbag provided additional stability under the buttstock. Her body position was aligned naturally with the target, eliminating any muscle tension that could affect accuracy. The process took nearly 30 minutes to complete, but each adjustment was necessary for the precision required. Through her scope, Elena Vasquez began to study the compound in detail. Guard positions rotated every 2 hours. There were 3 main buildings where a meeting might take place. The largest structure had a rooftop terrace that would provide the best visibility for her shot, but also the highest exposure for anyone on it. As dawn approached, activity in the compound increased. Vehicles arrived carrying what appeared to be local leaders. Elena Vasquez watched each new arrival, looking for the facial recognition markers that would identify her target. Digital photographs and detailed physical descriptions had been memorized during mission planning. Height, weight, distinctive features, typical clothing preferences, movement patterns. At 0547 hours, a convoy of 3 vehicles approached the compound from the north. Through her scope, Elena Vasquez watched as the passengers disembarked. The third figure out of the second vehicle matched the profile. Height approximately 5 feet 10 inches. Dark beard with gray streaks. Distinctive scar along the left jawline from an old shrapnel wound. Target identified, she whispered into her radio. Sergeant Torres confirmed the identification through his own binoculars. The target moved toward the main building, surrounded by bodyguards and local commanders. Elena Vasquez tracked his movement through her scope, noting his walking pattern and preferred positioning relative to other people. Information that might be crucial when the shot opportunity presented itself. The group disappeared into the main building. Elena Vasquez settled into a waiting position, maintaining her shooting stance but relaxing her muscles to avoid fatigue. At long range, the shot would likely come with little warning. She had to be ready to engage immediately when the opportunity arose. 43 minutes later, the target group moved onto the rooftop terrace. Elena Vasquez could see them clearly through her scope, but they were positioned behind a low wall that blocked any clean shot. She watched and waited, controlling her breathing, keeping her heartbeat steady. The meeting appeared to involve reviewing maps and documents spread across a table. Multiple people moved around the terrace, but the target remained partially concealed. Elena Vasquez made final adjustments to her scope settings based on the current atmospheric conditions. Wind had increased slightly from the southwest. Temperature had risen 3 degrees as the sun climbed higher. Each factor was incorporated into her firing solution. At 0642 hours, the target moved away from the table and stepped into the open area of the terrace. Elena Vasquez had a clear view of his center mass. Range 2,940 meters. Wind 7 miles per hour from 240 degrees. Temperature 34 degrees Celsius. Barometric pressure steady. Her crosshairs settled on the target's chest. She began her breathing sequence. Inhale, exhale halfway, natural respiratory pause. Her finger moved to the trigger. Pressure applied gradually, steadily, until the rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed across the mountains. The bullet began its 4-second journey across nearly 3 kilometers of hostile territory. Elena Vasquez maintained her sight picture, watching through her scope as the target continued to move on the terrace, unaware that his fate was already sealed. Time seemed suspended as the bullet arced through the thin mountain air, fighting wind and gravity while maintaining its deadly course toward the distant target. 3.8 seconds after firing, Elena Vasquez saw the impact through her scope. The target dropped immediately. The precision of the shot was confirmed as other figures on the terrace reacted with shock and confusion. Elena Vasquez had successfully engaged a human target at 2,940 meters, a range that pushed the absolute limits of practical rifle marksmanship. The compound erupted into activity. Guards rushed toward the main building while others began scanning the surrounding mountains for signs of the shooters. Elena Vasquez was already beginning to disassemble her rifle as Sergeant Torres coordinated their withdrawal from the observation post. Moving fast but carefully, the team packed their equipment and began their route to the extraction point. The enemy would need time to organize search parties, but Elena Vasquez and her teammates had to assume they would face pursuit during their movement to the helicopter landing zone. They moved down the mountain using different paths than their insertion route, staying in cover whenever possible and avoiding open areas where they might be visible to observers in the compound. Elena Vasquez carried her rifle case and pack, but her mind was still processing the mechanics of the shot she had just made. The windage adjustment had been perfect. The elevation calculation had accounted for the bullet drop at extended range. Most importantly, the timing had been exact, with the bullet arriving precisely when the target was in the optimal position. During the movement to extraction, Sergeant Torres maintained communication with their support elements. The helicopter was on schedule for pickup. Intelligence confirmed that the target had been eliminated and that the mission objectives had been achieved. But they were not safe until they were airborne and clear of the operational area. 2 hours after the shot, they reached the extraction landing zone. Elena Vasquez took a defensive position and provided security, while Sergeant Torres marked the helicopter landing point with an infrared strobe visible only through night vision equipment. The sound of rotor blades approached from the south, and within minutes they were climbing into the aircraft that would carry them back to base. As the helicopter gained altitude and turned toward friendly territory, Elena Vasquez allowed herself a moment to reflect on what had just occurred. She had successfully completed one of the longest-range precision rifle shots ever recorded in combat conditions. The technical difficulty of engaging a human target at 2,940 meters was something that few marksmen in the world would even attempt. But beyond the technical achievement, she understood the strategic importance of the mission. The target had been a key figure in coordinating attacks against coalition forces. His elimination would disrupt enemy operations and potentially save the lives of soldiers and civilians. It was this knowledge that gave meaning to the precision and dedication required for long-range marksmanship. Back at the forward operating base, Elena Vasquez cleaned and inspected her rifle with the same methodical attention she had used to prepare for the shot. Every component was checked for damage or wear. The barrel was cleaned and preserved. The scope was verified to ensure that the impact of firing had not affected its calibration. Proper equipment maintenance was as important as marksmanship skill in ensuring consistent performance under field conditions. The mission debriefing focused on the technical aspects of the shot and the intelligence value of the target elimination. Elena Vasquez provided detailed information about atmospheric conditions, equipment performance, and the timeline of events leading up to the engagement. This information would be analyzed and incorporated into training programs for other precision marksmen. Sergeant Torres submitted his own report focusing on navigation, communication, and security during the operation. The successful completion of the mission had required coordination between multiple team members, each contributing specialized skills to achieve the overall objective. In the weeks that followed, word of Elena Vasquez's 2,940-meter shot spread through the special operations community. Long-range marksmanship instructors requested copies of her firing data and atmospheric calculations. The shot became a case study in the application of advanced ballistic principles under combat conditions. But for Elena Vasquez, the recognition was less important than the knowledge that her skills had contributed to mission success and the protection of friendly forces. She continued to train, to study, and to refine her marksmanship abilities. Every shot was an opportunity to improve, to push the boundaries of what was possible with precision rifle systems and human skill. The 2,940-meter engagement had proven that with proper preparation, equipment, and execution, even seemingly impossible shots could be achieved. It was a lesson that would influence her approach to marksmanship for the remainder of her career. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you believe in honoring those who serve in silence, who perfect their skills in pursuit of mission success, who push the boundaries of human capability in service of others, then subscribe for more stories of precision, dedication, and excellence under pressure. Stories that remind us that behind every successful mission are individuals who have dedicated their lives to mastering their craft and serving something greater than themselves. 3 days after the mission, Elena Vasquez found herself in the sterile briefing room of the Joint Special Operations Command headquarters. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the polished conference table where senior officers reviewed classified documents detailing her unprecedented 2,940-meter engagement. Colonel Patricia Hendricks, the commanding officer of her unit, studied the ballistic analysis reports with the focused attention of someone who understood the technical complexity of what had been achieved. Elena Vasquez sat quietly, still processing the broader implications of a shot that had already begun reshaping how special operations forces approached long-range precision marksmanship. The mathematical calculations alone had pushed existing ballistic models to their theoretical limits. Computer simulations run after the mission showed a success probability of less than 12% under the atmospheric conditions Elena Vasquez had faced. Yet she had achieved first-round impact on a human-sized target at a distance that challenged the fundamental assumptions of practical rifle marksmanship. Colonel Hendricks looked up from the reports and met Elena Vasquez's eyes across the table. "The technical aspects of your shot have been verified by multiple independent sources," she said. The range was confirmed by GPS coordinates. Atmospheric data was recorded by weather monitoring equipment at the observation post. The bullet trajectory analysis is consistent with the environmental conditions you faced. What we need to understand now is how you achieve this level of precision under field conditions. Elena Vasquez had anticipated this question. The success of her shot had resulted from years of preparation that went far beyond standard marksmanship training. She had studied advanced ballistic physics, atmospheric science, and precision manufacturing tolerances. Her rifle had been customized with components selected for their ability to perform consistently under extreme conditions. Most importantly, she had developed mental preparation techniques that allowed her to maintain perfect focus during high-stress situations. "I spent 18 months preparing for shots at extended range," she explained. The theoretical knowledge was important, but practical application required hundreds of hours on the range under varying conditions. Wind, temperature, humidity, altitude, time of day. Each factor affects bullet trajectory in ways that become critical at distances beyond 2,000 meters. Colonel Hendricks nodded, understanding that Elena Vasquez's achievement represented more than natural talent or luck. It was the result of systematic preparation and dedication to mastering her craft. The implications for future operations were significant. Special operations units often face situations where conventional assault was impossible, but precision engagement from extreme range could achieve mission objectives. The ability to eliminate high-value targets from distances approaching 3,000 meters would fundamentally change tactical planning and operational capabilities. However, the rarity of marksmen capable of making such shots meant that this capability could not be widely deployed. Elena Vasquez's level of skill required years of specialized training and access to the most advanced precision rifle systems available. The military would need to develop new training programs and equipment standards to produce additional marksmen capable of extreme-range engagements. The briefing continued for 2 more hours, covering every aspect of the mission from initial planning through final extraction. Intelligence officers provided updates on the strategic impact of the target elimination. The enemy network had been disrupted significantly, with communications intercepts showing confusion and disorganization among remaining leadership elements. Follow-up operations had been able to capitalize on this disruption, leading to additional captures and the recovery of weapons caches that had been hidden throughout the region. Sergeant Torres was brought in to provide his perspective on the mission. His experience leading the team through difficult terrain and coordinating the extraction had been crucial to the overall success. He emphasized the importance of teamwork in achieving objectives that appeared to be individual accomplishments. Elena Vasquez's marksmanship was exceptional, he told the assembled officers, but the shot would not have been possible without proper positioning, security, and extraction planning. Special operations succeed because of integrated team capabilities, not individual heroics. The conversation turned to future training and operational applications. Colonel Hendricks asked Elena Vasquez about her willingness to share her knowledge with other precision marksmen. The techniques and equipment modifications she had developed could potentially be incorporated into advanced training programs. Elena Vasquez agreed to participate in the development of new curricula, understanding that her experience could help other soldiers achieve similar capabilities. She would work with military instructors to create training scenarios that replicated the challenges of extreme-range shooting under field conditions. This would involve not only technical marksmanship skills, but also the mental preparation required to maintain focus during complex calculations under pressure. The psychological aspects of long-range precision shooting were often overlooked in traditional training programs. At distances approaching 3,000 meters, marksmen had to maintain concentration for extended periods while processing multiple variables simultaneously. The slightest loss of focus could result in mission failure. Elena Vasquez had developed mental preparation techniques that included visualization exercises, breathing control methods, and stress management practices that were as important as physical marksmanship skills. Over the following weeks, Elena Vasquez worked with training developers to document her preparation methods in detail. Every aspect of her approach was analyzed and tested to determine which elements could be systematically taught to other soldiers. The customization of her rifle system was reverse-engineered to establish standard specifications for extreme-range precision weapons. Ballistic computer software was updated to incorporate the atmospheric calculation methods she had refined through practical experience. The training program that emerged from this analysis was unlike anything previously attempted by military marksmanship instructors. Students would spend months studying advanced physics and atmospheric science before ever touching a rifle. They would practice mental preparation techniques developed by sports psychologists working with Olympic athletes. The physical aspects of marksmanship would be taught using equipment specifically designed for extreme-range applications. Most importantly, training would emphasize the integration of technical knowledge with practical field skills under realistic stress conditions. Elena Vasquez served as the primary instructor for the initial classes of this advanced program. She found that teaching others helped her understand her own capabilities more clearly. The questions asked by students forced her to articulate techniques that had become instinctive through years of practice. This process of explanation and demonstration continued to refine her own approach to precision marksmanship. The first graduates of the program achieved remarkable improvements in long-range accuracy. While none immediately matched Elena Vasquez's 2,940-meter achievement, several students successfully engaged targets at distances exceeding 2,500 meters under controlled conditions. This represented a significant advancement in military marksmanship capabilities and validated the training methods that had been developed. News of the program spread through the international special operations community. Allied military forces requested access to the training materials and techniques that had been developed. Elena Vasquez found herself traveling to various countries to demonstrate her methods and assist in the development of similar programs for other military organizations. These interactions with foreign soldiers provided her with additional perspectives on precision marksmanship and opportunities to continue refining her techniques. One particular training exercise in northern Canada presented conditions similar to those she had faced during the 2,940-meter shot. High altitude, variable winds, and extreme cold tested the limits of both equipment and human capabilities. Elena Vasquez successfully engaged targets at 2,800 meters under these conditions, confirming that her achievement in Afghanistan had not been an anomaly, but rather the result of systematic preparation and technique development. The exercise also validated the training methods that had been implemented, as several students achieved successful engagements at distances exceeding 2,000 meters. The strategic implications of these capabilities began to influence military planning at the highest levels. Operations that had previously been considered impossible due to terrain or defensive positioning could now be executed through precision engagement from extreme range. Intelligence-gathering missions could be conducted with reduced risk to personnel by maintaining observation posts at distances that provided safety from enemy detection. The psychological effect on enemy forces was equally significant, as the knowledge that they could be engaged accurately from distances approaching 3 kilometers changed their movement patterns and defensive strategies. However, the ethical implications of such precise long-range capabilities required careful consideration. The ability to eliminate specific individuals from great distances raised questions about the nature of warfare and the responsibility of individual soldiers. Elena Vasquez spent considerable time reflecting on these issues, understanding that her technical achievement had broader implications for how conflicts would be fought in the future. She participated in discussions with military ethicists and legal experts to help establish guidelines for the employment of extreme-range precision capabilities. 2 years after her record-setting shot, Elena Vasquez was promoted to the rank of Master Sergeant and assigned to lead the military's Advanced Marksmanship Development Program. Her new role involved overseeing research into next-generation precision rifle systems, advanced ballistic calculation methods, and training techniques that could produce marksmen capable of engaging targets at distances that had previously been considered impossible. She worked closely with defense contractors and university researchers to push the boundaries of what was achievable with precision rifle technology. The program she now led was developing rifles capable of maintaining accuracy at distances exceeding 4,000 meters under optimal conditions. Advanced ballistic computers were being integrated directly into rifle systems, providing real-time calculations based on atmospheric sensor data. Training simulators allowed students to practice extreme-range shooting without the expense and logistical challenges of live-fire exercises at multi-kilometer ranges. These technological advances promised to make extreme-range precision shooting more accessible to a broader range of military personnel. Elena Vasquez remained committed to the principle that technology should enhance rather than replace fundamental marksmanship skills. The most advanced rifle system was useless without a marksman who possessed the knowledge, discipline, and mental preparation required to employ it effectively under field conditions. Her training programs continued to emphasize the development of comprehensive capabilities that integrated technical knowledge with practical skills and psychological preparation. The influence of her work extended beyond military applications. Law enforcement agencies began requesting training for precision marksmen who might face situations requiring shots at extended ranges in urban environments. The techniques Elena Vasquez had developed for calculating ballistic trajectories under varying atmospheric conditions proved applicable to civilian precision shooting sports, leading to improvements in competitive marksmanship performance. The mathematical models she had refined were incorporated into ballistic software used by hunters and target shooters around the world. As Elena Vasquez reflected on the path that had led from that early morning mission in Afghanistan to her current role as a leader in military marksmanship development, she understood that her 2,940-meter shot had been a catalyst for broader changes in how precision shooting was approached and taught. The technical achievement had demonstrated that existing assumptions about the limits of rifle marksmanship were too conservative when systematic preparation met advanced equipment and perfect execution. The training programs that had emerged from analyzing her methods were producing a new generation of precision marksmen capable of achieving what had previously been considered impossible. The research and development efforts she now led promised to continue pushing those boundaries even further into the realm of what had once been pure theory. Most importantly, Elena Vasquez had helped establish a culture within military marksmanship communities that emphasized continuous improvement, scientific rigor, and the integration of multiple disciplines in the pursuit of precision. Students in her programs learned not only how to shoot accurately, but how to think systematically about complex technical challenges. They developed the mental discipline required to maintain focus under extreme pressure and the dedication necessary to master skills that required years of preparation to achieve. The legacy of that single shot fired across a valley in Afghanistan continued to influence military training and operations around the world. Elena Vasquez had proven that individual excellence could drive institutional change, that pushing personal limits could expand what was possible for entire organizations. Her commitment to sharing knowledge and developing others ensured that the capabilities she had demonstrated would continue to evolve and improve long after her own career had ended. The mathematics of that 2,940-meter engagement had been complex, but the principles underlying Elena Vasquez's achievement were simple: dedication to continuous improvement, systematic preparation for challenging scenarios, and the integration of technical knowledge with practical skills. These principles remained relevant whether applied to precision marksmanship, military operations, or any field requiring the highest levels of human performance. As Elena Vasquez continued her work developing the next generation of precision marksmen, she carried forward the understanding that excellence was not an individual achievement, but a foundation for lifting others to new levels of capability. The shot that had made her reputation had become a starting point for advancing the entire field of military marksmanship, creating opportunities for others to achieve what had once seemed impossible.